Okay, hello, welcome back to another video. Today we are playing against the move e4, and as you can see, my rating is looking nice and healthy at 2195. I've started taking my Lichess rapid rating semi-seriously, and it has been climbing. Will we break over that 2200 barrier today? Well, if you're seeing this, spoiler alert, it might have happened. We are going to go for a pterodactyl here, boys. A pterodactyl. Not even a Sicilian dragon, a pterodactyl, a twin of the dragon in some sense that's probably not taxonomically correct. The point is that if they take here, we can go queen to a5 and then hit that pawn, which I mean hit that pawn and hit the king. It's kind of just a nice offbeat way to play against the Sicilian. There are people making noise outside my house. I'm 20 years old and I'm already an elderly curmudgeon. If you can hear that, I hope you feel my rage. But as you can see, there are a few benefits to having a kind of weird opening repertoire, and it's that our opponent has already sunk a minute, a full minute, which is 10%, I do maths at university, I'm sure you can tell, of their time, and I'm still booked. Now, they might be a little less booked, and if they play e5 here, then bishop g4, and I believe this is exactly the line we saw in my last video, unless I've posted a video in between. It's definitely the line we saw in a recent video where basically we just lock this bishop out, we banish it from the kingdom of our kind of domain here, and we just say, you know what, you're going to play h3? Fine. I do not care. I'm getting rid of that bishop because I'm going to put literally all my pawns on light squares if we play a6, of course, which I often do purely just, so that we can have all the pawns on light squares. It also serves as a genuinely nice deterrent for a knight coming into b5, so maybe I should have played it just then. However, the point is that this is a backwards pawn and we fixed it there. A backwards pawn is a pawn where in the adjacent files there are no pawns behind such that they can support them. So in this case it's a great example because there is no pawn in the c file, and so that kind of is one case, and the other case is that the pawn is pushed past and this one is kind of fixed behind. So this means this is probably going to be a pretty big weakness for the rest of the game. We're going to bounce out with the pony now, and you can see why we're kind of putting pressure on here. And if we do see h3, then I believe in a recent video I played precisely this idea where we trade this off and then take here, such that after the pawn recaptures, okay, they go queen d2, fine. But such that after the pawn recaptures, there would then be a hole here on g3, and we could maybe look to try and exploit that with some infiltrating ideas with the knight, the queen, maybe the bishop. But for now, I mean, they seem reluctant to play h3, which is interesting. I could snap that bishop off, but then they can take with the queen, which might be fine, but we have to castle anyway. It's not like they're threatening to infiltrate here because we just hold h6. And I think, castling kind of just passes the move back to them. It achieves something that we definitely need to do at some point, and it's kind of not completely obvious how white should continue. They might have, maybe they bring a rook to the c file. Maybe we just play a6. They do play h3 now. We wait long enough. They play h3. Now I'm going to grab this bishop because this is a bit softer, but they might recapture with the queen, fine. But if they do, then this is going to stay weak. So they use the opportunity to capture with the pawn. However, this does leave a big fat hole on the dark square on g3. Also just some potential ideas of general infiltration over on these dark squares. So now I'm going to play just a nice little knight to e7. Although actually I don't love knight b5. I guess I could do this, but then like g4 maybe. The point is that f5 isn't actually technically a hole for the knight. In fact, it can be kicked hypothetically by either pawn. But the point is that if they do play g4, they're really risking creating some big weaknesses around this king. And we see it straight away, as if by magic. I'm just going to snap play a6 there. That was an interesting sentence. Just because, we're keeping a bit of time pressure on. That could easily become a meaningful factor later in the game. I mean, people that watch my streams will be absolutely aghast at the fact that I'm up on time right now. And most of my videos, to be fair. Familiarity with an opening does very much allow you to kind of convert that, if not into a great position, at least into a time advantage. And so nearly 2 full minutes up on the clock is definitely non-trivial in rapid chess. It's an interesting question as to whether they try to break with e4. I mean, you kind of got to be looking for pawn breaks if you want to attack, especially in a position with a nice closed pawn structure. Absolutely they could, but again, it's just perturbing stuff around the king. And although we can't go here immediately, I'm thinking we could maybe put our bishop here. Because, I mean, our bishop's not really looking at anything very interesting right now. Although, does that make sense without the ability to, add more fuel to the fire? We could just go out here to try and, for instance, bring the queen in and then the bishop in and look at some interesting squares. It is also possible that we just play f6. But then, I don't know, we kind of... First of all, we redeem doubled pawns, which is maybe a negative. But also, we give this rook some activity. They can, trade the rook, swing the other one over. I feel like it's quite nice to leave my king nice and secure here. Okay, rook c8 because it basically can't be a bad move. I mean, again, I'm just going to pass them back the move. I do want to maintain this time advantage, but not, of course, at the detriment or to the detriment of my position. That's a little concerning, actually. If b5, they just go in here. Although, I mean, rook sack and takes here just does feel... You know what? Come in. We'll invite you in. I believe I played a very similar idea in literally the last video I posted. But we're going to go for it. It's a positional exchange sacrifice to trash the pawns. We get a knight and also a pawn and some big activity for the bishop just for the price of that rook. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. Now, in the last video where I played this, if you are familiar, it was a rook sack, I believe, on c5, although I recorded that video about a week ago. But in that case, it was a much more winning position because we were already up material. This is probably a more interesting exchange sacrifice because, you know, I genuinely have to now have some kind of structural activity-based compensation and probably, you know, make my knight actually a useful piece rather than just sitting here hoping one day to reach f5. I'm going to start with knight c6, purely because I think blockading this passed pawn is a good idea. Also, it would allow us to maybe sneak in with the queen and then really get some interesting ideas going on. I think, yeah, the activity we get for the bishop, you know, removing a definitely very powerful knight. We do give them a pass pawn. It might have been a bit of a dubious idea, but it's definitely an interesting way to play. You know, they've got this nice kind of central bind here, kind of trashing our bishop. We say, no, I do not care about my rook. They bring the king up. Yo. Okay. I mean, very little hesitation on queen h4 there. Huge threat of just a mate in two. They probably play rook f3 to remedy that. Or actually queen e1. Maybe this was short-sighted. Damn. That's actually quite annoying. Okay. I mean, we're fine. But also, I think I maybe just wasted a move. We can, however, just take a little step back to g5 with tempo on this pawn here. And again, maybe, you know, at this point we try and play a move like f5. We're not even that much material down as well. That's kind of the nice thing about getting the pawn as well as the minor piece for the rook. You know, a rook for a minor piece exchange sacrifice is often a really sort of nuanced but nice way to win a game of chess. I think there was a Dingler and Yan Yaponshi game in the World Championship match they played where Ding went for a beautiful rook for knight sacrifice. I think that's pretty pertinent in my memory at least. And so it's, yeah, okay, they defend this. Not loving what's going on here. I think my bishop is far better placed, you know, deep in the pocket than up here. I think it's kind of just in the way of my knight. You know what? Deep in the pocket. Why not? Why not genuinely deep in the pocket? Let's go right back. Now, I'd imagine they could push, but then we could push in response and get a protected pass pawn. But then they could push, attack my knight, but then I could take. We maybe let this start to come past, but I'm not too worried about this pawn. Our pawn structure is certainly interesting. It's definitely useful that we have a dark squared bishop rather than a light squared one. I think there's also a huge amount of compensation to be claimed in the fact that we have all these pawns on light squares while our opponent has a light squared bishop. So they do make this pawn break. I am just going to push because I don't like giving any activity here. So we're going to push. We're going to get our own little passed pawn here. If they give up the pawn to try and maneuver this through, then I'm not entirely sure that that's a great idea. There's the, you know, impending fork. Maybe we put the knight on c4, disconnect, go and take the pawn. I think probably pushing just doesn't make sense. And if they don't push now, we do have the opportunity, okay, king h1, to play queen e5. Sorry, not queen e5, pawn e5. But queen e5 is also kind of interesting. But pawn e5, of course, securing and protecting that passed pawn. Maybe then we bounce around with the pony a little bit. We go like knight d8, knight e6, knight f4. Ooh. That could be super good. That could be super, super useful. We could also push because we're threatening this, but I think, you know, maybe that might be a bit premature. If I go here, you just lift the rook and defend, right? Yeah. This is actually really tempting. What do you reply? You can just move the rook or the queen, though, I guess. I think I actually really like the slower, maybe more positional approach, where we do definitely worsen our bishop temporarily. And, you know, maybe this was a pretty poor idea, but I do really like the idea of having this dark squared bind where it's kind of impossible for our opponent to break at this now because they don't have a c pawn that can break at the head of it. They don't have an f pawn that can break at the base of it. And so if we then just really make our knight a very well positioned piece, you see they're not even protecting this anymore. We could go and threaten it. What is that actually? Not entirely sure what that achieves, to be completely honest. Maybe it is just getting that rook out of the way of the watchful eye of our queen. But I think, honestly, actually, we could do bishop a7 now, leave the knight here so that there's no queen b4. Oh, no, but then if we end up taking here, they do just get activity down the file. I'm just going to ignore this pawn, honestly. I mean, knight d8, knight here, knight f4. That's actually the only reason I went for this e5 move, is for this beautiful, beautiful position of the knight on f4. We're definitely, I mean, I do like this opening because it gives me an opportunity to play a far more positional style of chess than I tend to play with my more open tactical ideas. I mean, that just has to be a move. This just has to be a move. We're also hitting the pawn, by the way, which I didn't even realize. So, I mean, they might, if they come back across, I think that would be likely a bit of a waste of a move. Also, then we jump in here with... I mean, this just, you know, slow improvement of the pieces because we have a kind of locked up position. And also the fact that we've got that imbalance of we've sacrificed a rook for a knight and a pawn. So we best make sure that our knight and our pawn are as, you know, useful and well placed as possible. They do support their passed pawn. You know, we've got kind of a analog of what we've got going on d4. I mean, just principally, like, this has to be a good place for the knight. Okay, we've achieved what we like. Now, there's an often awkward moment after achieving what you like, where you realise that what you wanted, rather, where you kind of realise that maybe this wasn't the best goal to have, because what have I actually achieved? However, I can tell you what I've achieved. I've achieved permanence of the knight on f4, unless they sack back, in which case then we're just going to be up a pawn and still have this nice progressed pass pawn. I wouldn't be surprised if they did, though, to be completely honest. I mean, when we sacrificed, we not only got a pawn in reply, or in return, sorry, but we also kind of ruined this pawn structure here. You know, we made all three of these pawns weaker. I guess this pawn could have been made stronger, actually, because it's now proving to be a bit of a thorn in my side. But they move the queen. How do we make further progress? I mean, I've made a, you know, achievement unlocked with this piece. Also, time is still a useful thing to keep an eye on. Maybe I should move my rook. Maybe they're going to push this. Just move. Honestly, I genuinely think just moving here is more important than spending ages looking for a good move. And the idea of playing bishop c7 is that, well, maybe this should have been played in the first place instead of bishop b8. I kind of just like dropping bishops all the way back, because it's fun. Maybe at some point a5 is justifiable. Also, we kind of get in the way of this eventual progression of the c pawn. Oh, wow. You're going to try and break here. We have the... Hold on, why did I not even consider that? I mean, yeah, it's got to be. They can't take, because obviously the queen's hanging in that instance. And it gives us a potential avenue of development for king g7, rook h8 to activate this rook. Because I was kind of thinking, you know, there's nowhere really for my rook to get a nice open file. We're either behind our own pawns. Obviously, sorry, d8 would be a nice idea, but now that's just free, right? Okay, we're going to take another pawn. Because now, again, this knight is immortal. We have two passed pawns here. This pawn seems kind of weak, and we can definitely go after it. Again, king g7 and rook here makes sense. They're going to try and play with their passed pawn, though. Obviously, makes sense. Do we play this? Here, and we just have 4 connected passed pawns. Like, you know what I mean? How is that not going to be winning? But then if here and you don't take, I don't want to take, because then everything's just trashed. King g7. Don't know if it's a great idea, but I think my rook being on the h file can't be a horrible thing. We're going to sort of pre-move, not sort of pre-move, we are going to pre-move. A takes b5. They don't have rook a5, they do have rook a7, which is concerning. Just tempo on the bishop, don't really love that. And they might get a couple pawns going on here, baby. That is not what I want to see. Here. 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 Here, mate, or something. Wait, I've got freaky ideas. I'm actually going to try and mate this guy with just my 3 pieces. Who needs to promote pawns? You're worried about the wrong thing if you go for this. How about that? Okay, this might be really dubious, but I think we can get a really cool checkmate here, especially as the time trouble persists. You know, you've got to play a couple moves to start promoting this pawn. Okay, you start pushing it now? Hold on. Here, here. Here. You can't queen straight away. I love it. I actually love it because we hold this square. I get my rook on this file. I'm telling you, you're in trouble here. I'm actually telling you, you're in trouble here. If I get my rook to h8, I'm telling you it's done. I'm telling you it is over. Rook h8. You're not going to promote that. You might get behind it now. Oh my word. Oh my lord. Look at the discovery. And if you go here, I go check. You can't escape. Your only legal move is to go back here. This is exactly what I drew with the lines. You got 20 seconds with the pieces. Oh, we just win. We just win. If my opponent's about to flag, I'm going to give them extra time. I really want to play the mate. They go back with the rook. But we go check. Right? Right? You have to do this. Then check. Mate! I don't know why I said that for so long without playing it. That was so disgusting. I don't know if it was disrespectful to give my opponent extra time there. For some reason, I didn't even see, like, I didn't see that the knight held g2. Look, just my 3 pieces. The knight from f4, guys, 2200, guys. If you're not subscribed to this channel, what are you doing? Okay, so here we are in the analysis. If you have a little look at the graph, apparently there was one big blunder from me, which was playing e5. Oh, damn. Because they had h4, and instead I should have played bishops, I guess, and then maybe played e5 after. We'll have a look through the full game, of course. Keeping the Masters database open, by the way, because we see that this is known as the hyper-accelerated pterodactyl. They play c3, and then we go for cd4. I'll just go up so you can see the top move here. cd4, d5, e5, bishop g4, and then after here, we just went for e6, and we eventually transposed to a position, reached in like 5 master games, knight here, and then we come out, and then we castle. Then we're still in master games. Takes. Okay, so this is where we diverge, right? So basically, all of this shenanigans that I was talking about at the start, where we basically don't care about the bishop, we're fully ready to, trade it off. They play h3, and after they take, we grab this. The point was that I said they could take with the queen, and then we would have probably tried to put some pressure on this with maybe queen b6 and put some pressure on b2 as well. In fact, if queen here and then queen b6, then you've got to play rook fd1, and after takes, then you've got to go here, and then, queen a3, you win back the pawn. I guess that's pretty, hard to see. You probably don't want to see queen b6, and also, I mean, the whole opening, you're kind of thinking about the weakness of this pawn, from this very moment where I've attacked the pawn, I've then swung out, you kind of defended it, you're keeping the queen, you might be bringing a rook, you're thinking about this backwards pawn weakness, so it's completely understandable to kind of mess up your pawn structure in order to make this knight, at least immediately, less effective. We then drop the knight back, because of course our knight's got no prospects over here, but it absolutely has prospects here, until our opponent plays flipping g4, and says to me, you're not coming here. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll just play a6, pass the move back to you. I'll play rook here. You come in with the knight, here. Oh, I love this game. Oh, I love this game. That was the best move. Give me my brilliant move emoji. Any members of the channel, whack them in the comments. Rook takes c5, best move, a nice thematic sacrifice there. We should have... Oh, no, okay, this was good. We recapture the pawn, and then here, blockade the pawn. I mean, come on. Queen h4, queen here, queen g5. Oh, don't know why I didn't even consider grabbing this pawn. That would have made this a whole lot easier. Okay, that's pretty dumb. I kind of just got a bit excited about having my my bishop on b8, just looking down here at the king. But we could have easily grabbed this. They lift the rook, come back, and just had a good time. We'd have probably kept this blockaded and then tried to win it. But instead, we drop back. Then they push. I push past. And then here... It doesn't like e5 because h4 is a move. In fact, sorry, the reason it doesn't like this isn't because h4 is a move. That's not actually a really tactical justification. It's more, they could play queen f2 here. They could also play b4 here. It's just that I think I kind of kill off this bishop, which I did say. I was just a bit excited to hold this. They don't really go and, you see, I didn't think this move made a whole lot of sense. It doesn't come with much initiative. It kind of lets me start to reroute my knight and then actually, hold on, once the knight gets to f4, we were in a pretty nice position, and it's -1 for black. And if you have an evaluative advantage, but you're down material, it is so hard to play for the other opponent in almost all cases. You'd much rather, even if it's an equal position, but you're down material, you'd rather be down material in an equal position, because it means you've got some attacking initiative. At least me personally, if you want to play attacking chess. The move it wanted us to play, by the way, was bishop here, because if they move the rook, let's say to d1, then we can take the queen. Take the pawn with the queen. If they come up here, we can start pushing this. And if they go back, obviously we're going to take or fork. And it's actually, there was some tactical justifications to not playing e5. So I think e5 was more of a missed win. But anyway, it is still definitely a very nice idea in terms of the general game plan, the 3-move plan. Basically, if you're going to play e5, do it because you want to put your knight on f4, is kind of what I'm saying here. We get the knight on f4, they move the queen in. I just make a move again. We're passing it back for the sake of time. h5, here. We get this trade. King g7 is a great move. They take, we take, they come in. I go back and look at this pawn, and that's a blunder. And taking there's the best move. Oh my word. I genuinely thought we had some kind of weird mating net going on here, or at least they'd have to sack a bunch of material. They push, we go rook here, and it's mating too. It's check, holding this square so they can't run. And after here, for some reason I took about 90 seconds to actually take the bishop there. I was just trying to calculate after king here, but then I obviously realized that king here is not a move. But that is just brutal. And I mean, their best move was to just give away the bishop straight up and probably, I don't know, take with this. Although then there's maybe counterplay actually. So it is still tricky, because if we take like this, there's rook f7. Not quite brilliant because we do have king h6, but if we take, they promote with a discovered check and we are cooked. So, all the pieces on the h-file, whatever, not really going to help when there's a queen and a rook staring at your king's ass. So we very easily could have just taken that with the pawn, had a bunch of extra material. This would have been defended. Although it definitely would have been scary. Like, we'd have had to calculate some lines if they went behind here, protected with the rook. They go here to try and play rook b8. We'd have had to play like this. And if they go rook b8, we'd have had to push this, such that if they take... You know, they've got to stay attached to the back rank here, and then we could take the pawn, because if they come up, then we're going to promote, of course. You know, it still would have been winning. Would have definitely been a little more scary if they played that more resilient move. But instead, we get the beautiful idea of bishop to f2. And by the way, after rook h8, if they'd gone king here, trying to run from the discovery, my plan was to go check, force them back, and if they go here, it's mate in 1, because the knight holds, which is disgusting. If they go here, we go g3, bishop blocks, check. They now can go to g2, and then checkmate with the flipping piece. I mean, come on. Look at the flipping. But instead, of course, we get this kind of equally beautiful checkmate where the king is just bullied in the corner by our pieces. We did not care ever that this pawn was one move from queening. We went for that king's neck, and we hit 2200, 2203 precisely. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you learned a little something as well. If you enjoy the kind of chess I play, you enjoy the way I talk about it, and you know you want to see more, then first of all, subscribe to the channel and look out for all my other videos. But also, I have a website. The link is in my bio in the description of the channel, willtaylorchess.com, where you can sign up if you like and join some group calls that we do, where we kind of go through a similar process where I get you guys to give me some more ideas. We've got a nice little bunch there at the moment. It's $19.99 a month, so you'd get 4, sometimes 5 sessions for £20 basically. Or if you don't want to be there in the live call and you just want to watch the VODs each week after the session, then it's like $14.99. So I've tried to make it like really, you know, super affordable. But yeah, this is just a way that I'm trying to, you know, engage a bit more with my audience, but also, let's be completely real, make some money while I'm at university. And so if you are interested, then check that out, willtaylorchess.com. I'll put the link in the description. If you have any questions, just email me about it. Sorry to end on a filthy plug like that, but you know, I'm a diehard capitalist. What can I say? Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.